Good afternoon, everyone. We're here talking with John Rosebush, someone you should be very, very familiar with when it comes to the subject of energy and particularly today's discussion, sustainability of energy and topics along those lines. John and I live, fortunately enough for us, in Southwest Michigan, a beautiful, beautiful part of the country. We were just out at the dunes, enjoying the lake, enjoying those beautiful dunes, and in that kind of an environment, it's very easy to think about, will this be here in a few years for our kids and our grandkids? So energy and energy sustainability are what we're going to talk about today in kind of an informal setting here. And we'll let John start this out. It's a many, many faceted subject. So John, let's get this ball rolling and let's talk about sustainability.
Well, in my mind, there's two things that are absolutely necessary to have a sustainable planet for mankind. The first one is we need to be able to recycle everything on the planet. In other words, no more dumps. So when trash trucks leave your house, the regular trash, not recycled trash, but the regular trash, it gets sent to recycle centers and they completely recycle every resource we have. It's just common sense. If we don't recapture our resources and reuse them, then we're going to use them up.
What's our present recapture rate on recycling right now, typically in America?
Only about 3%. And that's because we leave it up to individuals to put recycling materials in particular cans. It actually does not work today. So we need it because it needs to be absolute. People a lot of times talk about footprint, and they about the size of your footprint, and that what they're talking about is your ecological footprint. And in order to have a sustainable planet, you must have zero footprint. With 7.3 billion people, if we don't, even if we have small footprints, we're going to end up consuming the resources. Maybe it seems like I'm ideological about sustainability. In other words, it's absolute. Yes, it is for me. And the reason being is because if we're not going to have a sustainable planet for years to come. And one thing what people don't realize, it's real easy to have a zero footprint. There's only two things that are necessary in the world today to have a zero footprint. The first one is we need to have an energy source, which I have developed, that uses no resources. In other words, no feedstocks. So it doesn't use coal or natural gas or oil or even wood. It generates energy without feedstocks. That makes it a zero footprint, minus the materials to build the infrastructure.
A feedstock, just to be clear, is some consumable material that is needed to produce energy.
Right. And it doesn't matter if you're growing biofuels. It doesn't matter if you're drilling for oil or coal or natural gas. It's a limited resource. And even biofuels, we can't grow enough food to create enough energy to supply us and feed the world. So that makes it unsustainable. And if we really want humanity to be able to continue for millions of years on this planet, then we need to create a sustainable planet. And let me explain to you the two easy things that are required. Everything else in the world doesn't have to change, which is kind of cool. If we use my new energy source, which can create abundance of energy for everybody, I know I can create up to 1,000 terawatts of energy. Today, the planet only uses 21 terawatts. That's 50 times what we produce today. I can create that much energy with this new energy source. But even go beyond that. By capturing all our resources and reusing them, we no longer use up resources. Now think about it. Maybe we have a plastic lighter today, and so then we use it up. It's no good. We send it to the dump. Well, instead of going to the dump, it gets recaptured. Maybe tomorrow it becomes part of a computer, the plastic on a computer. Then when that computer goes bad, the next time that same plastic maybe becomes something for your automobile, inside your automobile. So in other words, you recapture and reuse all your resources. So what are the things that would be necessary to set up a sustainable world? Pretty simple. We can still produce all the products that we desire today. The only difference is when those products are done, instead of going to the dump, they go get recycled and reused again for another product.
Now, the alternative to that, especially in the case of plastic in particular, The alternative to that is using a petroleum-based material to create virgin plastic, if you will.
Right. But the problem with that is, if we do that, we're going to run out of oil. So what you're doing is you've now put into something that we're consuming, right? That we're going to run out of. And what happens when we run out of oil then? Well, how are we going to maintain a modern society? Imagine a world without plastics. That's all you got to do. Yet oil creates 7,000 products: tires, shingles, asphalt shingles, everything you could almost think of. I mean, if you go into a grocery store, 80-90% of the products made out of plastic. So the idea is not to use those resources. In other words, to use them, but to recapture them and reuse them again and again and again and again and again, hopefully permanently. So what that does is save our resources. So if we have 7.3 billion people today, if we had 10 billion people, it wouldn't make any difference, right? We'd have to get a few more resources, but the idea of eliminating all the dumps in the world and recapturing all those resources, we could maintain 20 billion people.
Where's the difficulty in doing exactly that? Instead of having 3 to 4% capture rate in terms of recycling, where is the chief obstacle when it comes to getting 100% recyclability?
Well, one of the things is it's just the motivation and the priority to do it. Today we recycle 3%, so why couldn't we recycle 100%? Today we spend all our time trying to find oil. Okay? This new energy invention will eliminate that. There's no reason to find more oil, except for the virgin oil it takes to make products. Because this new energy invention will replace oil, replace natural gas, replace coal, replace all of them. So what do? We need to implement this, and it will replace all forms of energy. I'm just going to be truthful. $150 million a gigawatt of unlimited energy around the planet replaces all forms of energy. There'll be none left.
Earlier, you and I talked about a percentage of human activities that involves energy. What was that percentage again?
98% of a modern society's human activities involve some form of energy. So that tells you how important energy is to the human race and to a modern society. And without a modern society, there's no way that we could take care of 7.3 billion people and growing. So we have to have a modern society. So you can understand how important energy is. Energy is involved in everything, from everyday life to transportation, driving your car to the store, to your utilities, to manufacturing, to farming, to every walk of life. Everything that we do in life involves some form of energy. So energy is critical to a sustainable planet, and capturing all the resources is just as important. No matter what we consume, if we consume resources, we would use them up. It's common sense. 7.3 billion people can take a lot of resources to maintain. In the 1950s, there was only 1 billion people. Today, there's 7.3 billion people, and it's growing. And so we now have 7 times the strain that we had on our resources back in the 50s. And on top of it, all the third world countries are consuming resources like we do today, and they want to more and more. So, those two things are essential to a sustainable planet. The other things that we can do is, clean up our oceans, improve marine life. There's so many other things that need to happen in order to create a healthy world. But 2 things are totally essential. And the nice thing about it is, it still allows mankind to make all the different products they choose, right? We can live our life like we do today. Whatever priorities people have on products can be built for them, et cetera, et cetera. The only difference is, instead of throwing it away, we send it to recycle centers, and it gets the actual natural resources get recaptured and reused to build something else, which is the next priority. I mentioned the different things that plastic can be used in. It's for anything. Now, anything that can be replenished, like wood, can be used and discarded. But things that can't be, the other resources that cannot be replenished very easy, need to be recaptured and reused. It's pretty basic. Actually, this is such a simplistic idea that it really shouldn't take a whole lot of discussion to understand it. Energy being created without resources, and recycle everything. Everything. I mean, no dumps no more. Imagine, no more dumps. So that puts all the resources right back. That creates a zero footprint. That's what people, when I initially said, talking about footprint, that's what I was talking about. So we can come into this world and leave this world with a zero footprint.
And one thing that you and I had talked about also earlier, and it's a bit of a diversion from this, from recycling discussions, for example, but perhaps more critical and more immediate, and that's the need for water. And for us here in the United States, we can look to California. That's more close to heart. But of course, in other parts of the world, it's even more critical, even more immediate. The need for water. India, China,
Yeah.
third world countries, Africa, others.
Brazil.
You spoke about. Tell us about this, and tell us about how this energy invention would mitigate these water shortages.
Well, let me talk solution here now. First, I'm going to define the problem. Climate change, which from burning fossil fuels, we're losing our ice, our snow cover on the mountains. I mean, that's going on all over the world. They talk about it in Western Canada, but wherever you talk about in the world, that is going on. And so, and that's because of climate change. Regardless if you believe in climate change or not, it's happening. These our mountains, the snow cap on them is disappearing.
Glaciers gone.
Glaciers are going away. So that is the normal watershed that we've been used to for hundreds of years. And we know the rivers flow from there, right? So the mountains capture these glaciers, and then we know every year so much of it melts, and we have rivers that flow. So that snow cap's going away. So when that snow cap goes away, we no longer have that water flowing through our rivers. Okay? Now, we still have it, but it's disappearing. And we see that it's showing up everywhere. And, plus the population growth around the oceans, if you think about it, Sao Paulo, Brazil, California, along the coastal regions of China and India, that's where all the people live. So now we have the rivers disappearing, and we also have a lot of populations using it, and the agriculture has got a huge demand on more demand because of more people. But that normal watershed's going away, and it's not going to reverse itself. That's what people need to understand. This is not going to correct itself. I keep hearing people talk about, well, if it rains in California's pumped so much groundwater, they've dropped their water table 40, 50 feet. Well, that takes decades to replenish. And the same things are going on in all parts where there is water, and there are water shortages showing up everywhere. Even England has got water shortages. So because 60% of the population lives on the oceans, it makes sense to use that water there if we can.
How can we use it?
Well, we need energy. Again, it goes back to the new energy source that I've created. And we can use that. I can show all these different places how to create more energy than they could ever need. I can also show them how energy we can power desalination plants, because that is a problem with desalination. It takes a lot of energy to produce it, to desalinate water. And then there's another problem. Once you desalinate the water, you have a lot of waste, the brine from the ocean. We could build hydrogen ships powered by hydrogen that would be almost free again. I'm telling you, the energy that I can produce is 10% of the cost of energy today, maybe less. People are going to be shocked how cheap this energy is. So we could build ships powered by hydrogen, and we could take that brine back out to sea, as long as we keep it away from the coastal lines, because if we don't, it ruins our reefs. It needs to be spread out. But I could show all these places how to desalinate so much water, they wouldn't even know what to do with it all. We'd have an overabundance of water. And do it cheap and long term.
And that's the key, isn't it, John? In Saudi Arabia, for example, desalination is a big part of their water supply.
Yes.
But they have endless oil, if you will.
Right, and they consume a lot of it for desalination. If you talk to the people in Saudi Arabia, they go, oh my God, it costs a lot of money, a lot of resources to desalinate that water. The energy I create doesn't consume resources, and they could do the same thing. Matter of fact, Saudi Arabia has, people from Saudi Arabia have sent me all kinds of messages wanting this to go forward. Now, you say, God, Saudi Arabia wants this new energy source to go forward. They they actually understand that this will make their oil long term, and that they can. And I told them I could produce 5 terawatts of power in Saudi Arabia. That's 5 times what the United States produces. That's how much energy I could produce for Saudi Arabia within Saudi Arabia. So they went, my gosh, I get all these benefits, and I still get to keep my oil for products later on in the future, because even if we recycle everything, we're going to continue to demand more and more products. I tell you why, the third world countries are going to advance themselves with this new energy source. So they're going to demand products. So it's going to be a demand on oil. It's not like demand for oil is going to go away. I'm trying to shrink it so it lasts a long time.
Of course. And there'll be a transition period there too, in getting the new energy abilities up to speed. And overlapping, you'll still have a need for petroleum products.
For a long time. I don't know if it's 10 years or whatever, of heavy demand for 5 years probably, and then lighter demand for 10. Just like you said, it will take time to do this. So it's not like it's going to happen tomorrow and their oil isn't going to go away, but it will go away. But the nice thing is there'll be something to replenish it, because again, third world countries will demand more products, which would demand more feedstocks, and believe it or not, because we've had an overabundance of oil, there will be continued demand on oil, and oil countries will still have the benefits of that versus other parts of the world. So this isn't a drawback on oil countries. It is a drawback on oil companies in the Western, because they go by quarterly profits, and they're going to diminish drastically over a very short period of time. But oil countries will be just fine. The whole world, don't forget, the whole world benefits from cheap energy. So, if you want to talk about the negatives, let's talk about the positives. We can now stop concentrating on finding energy and start figuring out ways to use energy. Wouldn't that be something? That all third world countries can go, wow, I have abundance of energy. What do I do with it? And it doesn't use resources. Advanced countries, imagine what we could do when energy is almost free. Imagine the manufacturing, imagine the transportation, imagine all the possibilities of this country. So we change our priorities from finding energy to recycling. What are we doing? We're setting up an environment where our grandkids and our great-grandkids and thousands of generations later can exist on this planet.
And really, that's the virtual definition, if you will, of sustainability, is to create an environment that will go down the line to, again, be habitable by our generations to come.
It's our responsibility.
Yes.
It isn't a
duty.
Yeah, this is not a wish or, boy, this is a benefit. It's our responsibility to leave a better world for our kids and to allow a world to be better for their kids, and on and on and on. That's what humanity is supposed to be doing. And instead we're involved in these petty wars. We're involved in greed, exploitation of labor all over the place. We're not taking responsibility for the products we even produce. One of the ways that we could pay for the setting up recyclable centers all over the world is when you make a product, you pay for the recycling in the price of the product. Now that is a logical approach. So if I say, well, I'm going to make plastic, wheelbarrows. Well, now how much does it cost to recycle that wheelbarrow? Okay, with the new recycling centers. Okay, well, I've got to add that into that wheelbarrow. So that's a way to allocate cost and keep a free society and keep things the way they are, but somebody pays for the recycling, and you pay for it at the time you produce it. So the producers, if you want to stay in business, and it's an equal thing among everybody. So, people will even maybe make their products a little bit different if they know they got to pay for the recycling of it. Now, and that pays for recyclable centers. We don't need big social programs to do that. What we need is a way to pay for it, right? So that covers the cost of recycling. So when these trash trucks come to pick up your trash, they're not taking it to the dump. We're creating zero footprint. They're going to large recycling centers set up all over the world. What does that do? That allows a free society like us to continue with our approach to a way a government should work, right? With private business, everything else, right? It doesn't change any of that, but it pays for recycling, sets up a sustainable planet, which is I believe it's totally our responsibility and complete duty to set up a world that is sustainable
Absolutely.
for mankind. We're worried about creating where our grandkids can live. I'm trying to show the world how we can create a world for 1,000 generations out, not for 2 generations out. This isn't some idealistic thing I'm talking about. This is real. This is very simple to do. Very simple to do. Just change priorities. And the whole key to all this starting to take place would be for a country and a few companies to assist me with bringing this new energy invention to the world. You know, just like a couple days ago, somebody commented on there that some type of nut or something because of my approach to this, and he was a financial guy, right? And I thought to myself, I'm not mad at him because his whole driven thought pattern has been to make money, 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 money. I feel that way too, and I have it for 10 years, but I'd like to make money. My gosh, I'm just a human being. But when you've created something that's so transform, it has such a huge impact on the world that it changes everything in the world. Money's the last thing I think about. If I can show the world how to create energy for 10% and an unlimited amount of energy, that's more important than money. It truly is more important than money. I know people on here, everybody's out to make a buck, everything else. But when when it's that drastic, it's more important than money. I've been looking on this platform for people to assist me with leadership, with helping me bring this to the world responsibly. The impact in the world is going to be dramatic, totally dramatic. So I've been looking more for leadership than I have been for a quick way to make a fast buck with a bunch of attorneys. It's too important. This is too critical, and it actually has the ability to transform our entire planet.
And I think that message, lest we get that message lost in something to follow, I'm looking at our clock and I see that we have been on the air for our intended 20 minutes. So I think that comment, that thought, John, that desire is a fine place to end with that appeal. Say again what you just said.
What I'm looking for out here is leadership to assist me with bringing this new energy invention to the world responsibly, where it benefits everybody. And I know it's going to change a lot of things, but we can make sure that the changes are as equitable as possible. We can make sure that everybody benefits. We can make sure that the way it's implemented makes sense. We can join together and work together instead of always competing at the detriment of everybody. We can make sure that it gets implemented and used in the recyclable centers. We can assist one another. We can create a world, I honestly believe, where everybody has hope, everybody has a future, everybody has a place, instead of a world where it's for the few and and everybody loves competition, including me. But in a case where you can improve everybody's life and you can create a win-win-win, I'm going to call it 3-win, maybe 4-win scenario, then that's too important of an opportunity for the world to be passing up. My health, and I'm surely not, I don't want to get into a lot of health, but my health ain't the greatest. And I am really the only one, even Virgil does not know how this new energy invention works. Right now, it's with me. And that's dumb. And I don't want it with me. I've been trying to gather the right team, the right people, the leadership to help me bring it to this planet. I don't want this burden no more. I created this new energy invention. It took me 10 years. 10 years of sweat, 10 years of hard work, 10 years of spending every penny I had. I don't want it anymore. I want to give it to the world. I'm looking for leadership to help me. And I can tell you this, please don't, a whole bunch of people just don't send me a bunch of emails, because I've had a ton of emails of people saying they want to assist me. The problem with it is I need the right leadership, just another individual, etc. And I can tell you a lot of it, even the emails have been due over greed or something. I don't want any of that. I need a country. I need a couple large companies, and I don't even care if they're GE or Siemens. They must think that they're just made of gold or something. I don't have to have them. What I need is some large companies to assist me in bringing this energy venture. And it'd be nice if there was a large country that helped step forward too. I can show China, India, how to create 5, 10 terawatts of electricity. 10 terawatts is half what the world produces today. I can show you how to do that pretty easy, literally. So what would 10 terawatts of energy do of alternative electricity without feedstocks do for China? It would solve all your problems, China. Same with you, India. You guys have the largest populations in the world. I can show Europe how to create 10, 15 terawatts of electricity. What would that do for Europe? You wouldn't be begging Russia for oil, for natural gas anymore. I can show the United States how to too. I can show South America. I can show South America, Brazil, how to create 10, 15, 20 terawatts of electricity quickly. All these things could be done quickly. I told Saudi Arabia I could help them produce 10 terawatts of power. I could do the same thing to Iran, Syria, Israel, all these places. Just imagine all your countries being able to have an abundance of almost cheap energy, all the possibilities for your people. The only thing holding people back is skepticism, which I haven't asked for a penny. So that's all that is a bunch of children saying, well, gosh, I can't do it, so he can't do it, because without asking for money, either I've got to be a nut, which I was called recently. I might be one, but I'm a nut because I'm trying to help the people of the world instead of trying to make a fast buck. If that's what you want to call me a nut for, or naive, or a scapegoat, or some stupid thing that you want to call me, fine. But I can tell you that I'm very educated. I worked for a major oil company for 25 plus years in the main office as an analyst. I've got 2 children, 5 grandchildren, and I am a man that is very concerned about the future of our kids and grandkids.
And on that note, I know we're running up against our time constraint here. On that note, John, I think you've made the point very, very effectively over the course of many, many months talking about this. And I think let's not get off track too deeply on the benefits. I think everyone knows the benefits. And the best thing about this, I think, is your appeal for the help, the kind of help, the specific help that you're looking for in getting this thing going. So at this point now, if we could, okay. I think we should probably terminate this right now and just let the people have this to soak in for a while, and thank them for joining us.
Oh yeah, thank you very much for joining us. Absolutely. And I appreciate it. I hope that this video has been interesting for you, and take care.
Right, now,
go ahead.
Don't forget, listen to everything that John has told you and act on it if you have the power.